the law-abiding princess and her devoted general. Chapter 1. The uncompromising Princess Lingyue. In the resplendent imperial palace of the Dajing dynasty, Princess Lingyue of Yong'an stood out like a sharp sword among the delicate flowers of the harem. As the youngest daughter of Emperor Xuanzong, she was not cherished for her softness or grace like her elder sisters. Instead, she was the emperor's most troublesome child. Her stubborn adherence to imperial law had earned her the nickname Living Code among the nobles, a title that carried both awe and disdain. But few knew that her obsession with law was not born out of caprice, but from a childhood memory etched into her bones. At the age of 7, she had witnessed a maid in her mother's palace being wrongfully accused of theft and executed without trial, simply because the accuser was a favored concubine's niece. That day, the young Lingyue had clung to her mother's skirt, asking why the rules everyone spoke of could not save an innocent life. Her mother's tearful reply, "The law is only as strong as those who enforce it," had planted a seed in her heart. She would be the one to make the law unshakable, even if it meant offending the most powerful in the realm. "Your Majesty, Princess Lingyue has stationed herself at the main gate of the Ministry of Revenue again." The eunuch Li Dai knelt on the cold jade floor, his voice trembling as he held up a scroll. "She says Minister Wang's tax adjustment for the southern provinces violates Article 17 of the imperial tax law of the 12th year, the clause that prohibits imposing additional levies on disaster-stricken regions. She demands that Minister Wang revise the tax list within 3 hours, or she will submit a formal impeachment to the censorate." Emperor Xuanzong rubbed his throbbing brows, setting down his brush with a sigh. That child. Does she not tire of confronting these old ministers every day? He glanced at the scroll in Li Dai's hand, his eyes softening slightly. "Tell Minister Wang to check the tax records again. If Princess Lingyue is right, let him correct it immediately, and send someone to tell my daughter. If she continues to stand in the wind, she'll catch cold. Her mother would worry." Such scenes had become a regular occurrence in the palace over the past 5 years. Since Lingyue had come of age, she had made it her mission to oversee the enforcement of imperial law. She had impeached her own uncle, the Marquis of Jingnan, for embezzling grain intended for famine relief. She had ordered the closure of a silk workshop owned by the Empress Dowager's cousin for using child labor. She had even argued with the Minister of Rights in front of the entire court over the proper punishment for a noble who had assaulted a commoner. Each time, she had relied on irrefutable evidence and precise citations of the law, leaving her opponents with no room to argue. Over time, even the most arrogant nobles had learned to avoid crossing her. On this day, however, the palace was abuzz with a different kind of news. The emperor was to bestow a marriage upon Princess Lingyue. The groom-to-be was General Murong Che, the 26-year-old hero who had just returned triumphantly from the northern frontier. Murong Che was not only a descendant of a prestigious military family, but also a legend in his own right. He had led 30,000 troops to defeat 100,000 Xiongnu invaders, recapturing 3 lost cities and securing the northern border. His name was praised by commoners and nobles alike, and many had whispered that he was the most eligible bachelor in the entire dynasty. When the imperial edict was delivered to Yong'an Palace, Lingyue was sitting by the window, poring over a dog-eared copy of the Code of Etiquette for Nobles. The sunlight streamed through the bamboo curtains, casting a warm glow on her pale face. She did not look up until the eunuch finished reading the edict, her expression calm as still water. "I obey the emperor's order," she said, closing the book with a soft thud. "But I have one condition." The eunuch's eyes widened. No one had ever dared to attach conditions to an imperial marriage. "Princess, what condition?" he asked cautiously. "General Murong and I shall sign a marriage contract in accordance with Article 9 of the imperial marriage law," Lingyue said, her voice clear and unwavering. "The contract shall stipulate that both parties must abide by all imperial laws and the rules of the princess's mansion. If either party violates the law, whether it be dereliction of duty, infidelity, or abuse of power, the other shall have the right to request a divorce from the emperor, with no fault attached. Additionally, The general's mansion shall be managed by me in accordance with imperial regulations, and no one, including General Murong himself, shall interfere without just cause." The eunuch nearly dropped the imperial edict. He scrambled to his feet and hurried back to the imperial study to report. Emperor Xuanzong listened, then burst out laughing. "That's my Lingyue, always turning everything into a legal matter." He waved his hand. "Tell her I agree. Go to the general's mansion and ask Murong Che's opinion, though I suspect he'll have no objection." At that very moment, in the Murong general's mansion, Murong Che was listening to his most trusted subordinate, Captain Qin Hu, report on Princess Lingyu's deeds. "General, Princess Lingyu is no ordinary noble lady," Qin Hu said, handing over a stack of documents. 3 months ago, she uncovered a corruption ring in the Ministry of Works, which had been embezzling funds for the repair of the Yellow River dikes. She presented ironclad evidence to the emperor, and 5 officials were dismissed and imprisoned. Last month, she stopped a group of nobles from hunting in the Imperial Forest Reserve, violating Article 4 of the Imperial Environmental Protection Law, and forced them to plant 1,000 trees as compensation. The people call her the protector of the common folk. Murong Che flipped through the documents, his lips curving into a faint smile. He had heard of Princess Lingyu's reputation long ago, but he had never paid much attention to palace gossip. Now, as he read about her unwavering commitment to justice, he felt a surge of admiration. "A princess who fears no power and upholds the law without bias," he murmured. "That is rare in this court." He thought of the chaos he had seen on the frontier, local officials ignoring the law, oppressing the people, and causing unrest. If more people in the capital were like Princess Lingyue, the dynasty would be far more stable. "General, the emperor's eunuch is here." A servant interrupted his thoughts. Murong Che stood up and adjusted his robe. When he heard the princess's conditions, he did not hesitate. "Tell His Majesty I agree to all the princess's terms," he said firmly. "A marriage based on mutual respect for the law is far more solid than one based on mere imperial decree." 3 days later, Murong Che entered the palace to thank the emperor. On his way back, he detoured through the imperial garden, hoping to catch a glimpse of his future wife. As he walked along the stone path, he heard a sharp, clear voice arguing with someone. "Li Hao, you damaged 3 peonies of the emerald phoenix variety, rare flowers that take 10 years to bloom. According to Article 37 of the Imperial Garden Management Law, anyone who damages imperial property must pay compensation equivalent to 10 times its value. The market price of 1 emerald phoenix peony is 100 taels of silver, so you owe 3,000 taels. Pay it within 3 days, or I will report you to the censorate." Murong Che rounded the corner and saw a young woman in a light blue palace dress standing with her hands on her hips, facing a handsome but arrogant young man. The woman had a slender figure and a pale, delicate face, but her eyes were as sharp as a blade. This must be Princess Lingyu. The young man was Li Hao, the son of Prince Li, a notorious troublemaker in the capital. "Princess Lingyue, you're being ridiculous." Li Hao sneered. "It's just a few flowers. My father is a prince. Do you think I can't afford to pay? But why should I? You're just a princess. What right do you have to order me around?" "I have the right granted to me by the imperial law," Lingyu said coldly. "The law does not distinguish between princes and commoners. If you violate it, you must be punished. Or are you saying that the prince's mansion is above the law?" Li Hao's face turned red with anger. He raised his hand as if to push her, but before he could move, a deep voice rang out. "Prince Li's son, stop!" Li Hao froze. He turned around and saw Murong Che walking toward them, his silver armor glinting in the sunlight. He quickly lowered his hand, his arrogance fading. "General Murong, what a coincidence," he said nervously. Murong Che bowed slightly to Lingyue. "Princess Yong'an," he said, his voice respectful. Then he turned to Li Hao, his expression turning cold. "Captain Qin Hu, recite Article 37 of the Imperial Garden Management Law to Prince Li's son." Qin Hu stepped forward and recited the article word for word. Murong Che crossed his arms. "Did you hear that, Li Hao? The law is clear. If you refuse to pay compensation, I will personally escort you to the censorate. And as the commander of the capital's garrison, I have the authority to arrest anyone who violates imperial law in the palace. Li Hao's face turned pale. He knew Murongche was not bluffing. The general was known for his strictness, and he had the emperor's full trust. He gritted his teeth. "Fine, I'll pay," he muttered, turning and storming away. After Li Hao left, Ling Yu turned to Murongche. She studied him for a moment, tall and imposing, with a straight nose and sharp eyes, his face tanned from years on the frontier. There was a calm, authoritative air about him that made her feel reassured. "General Murong also knows the imperial law well," she said, her tone softening slightly. "As a minister of Dejing, abiding by the law is the foundation of my duty," Murongche said, his eyes meeting hers. "Princess Lingyue's adherence to justice is admirable. Too many people in this court forget that the law exists to protect everyone, not just the powerful." Lingyu nodded. For the first time, someone had understood her without questioning her stubbornness. She felt a faint warmth in her chest. "General Murong is a rare, upright minister," she said. "I look forward to our future cooperation, both in marriage and in upholding the law." Murongche's heart skipped a beat. He had expected the princess to be cold and distant, but her words were sincere. He smiled. "I look forward to it too, Princess." Chapter 2. The Presumptuous Cousin. A month later, the wedding of Princess Lingyu and General Murongche was held with great pomp. The entire capital was decorated with red lanterns and colored streamers, and the streets were filled with cheering crowds. Lingyue wore a magnificent phoenix crown inlaid with pearls and jade, and a red wedding dress embroidered with golden phoenixes, regalia that symbolized her status as an imperial princess. As she stood beside Murongche, she felt a strange sense of calm. She knew that this marriage was not based on love at first sight, but on mutual respect for justice and law. And for now, that was enough. After the wedding, Lingyue moved into the general's mansion. She lost no time in implementing her rules. She posted copies of the imperial law and the princess's mansion regulations on every wall. She ordered the housekeeper to keep detailed records of all expenses to prevent corruption. She even trained the servants in basic legal knowledge so they would know their rights and duties. Murongche supported her fully. He even attended her law lectures for the servants, sitting in the back row and listening attentively. "The general's mansion should set an example for the entire capital," he told her. "Your rules are exactly what we need." The days after marriage were surprisingly peaceful. Murongche was busy with military affairs, but he always made time to return to the mansion for dinner. He would tell her stories of his battles on the frontier, how he had led his troops through snowstorms, how he had negotiated with tribal leaders, how he had protected the local people from bandits. Lingyue would listen quietly, occasionally asking questions about the military law and the treatment of soldiers. She was surprised to learn that Murongche was not only a brave warrior, but also a compassionate leader. He had set up schools for the children of soldiers, and he had fought to ensure that disabled soldiers received proper pensions. As the days passed, Lingyu found herself growing fond of Murongche. He was not like the other nobles she had met. He was honest, respectful, and never tried to control her. He respected her love for the law, and he even sought her advice on legal matters related to the military. For the first time in her life, Lingyue felt that she had found someone who understood her. But this peace was shattered a week later when Murongche's distant cousin, Murong Yao, arrived at the general's mansion. Murong Yao was the daughter of Murongche's late uncle, who had died in a battle 10 years earlier. Her family had fallen on hard times after her father's death, and Murongche had invited her to live in the mansion out of pity. Lingyue had no objection. She believed in treating relatives with kindness as long as they abided by the rules. But Murong Yao was not the grateful, humble cousin Lingyu had expected. She was beautiful, with a petite figure and a pair of big, watery eyes, but her heart was filled with jealousy and vanity. She had grown up hearing stories about Murongche's glory, and she had always dreamed of marrying him. When she learned that he had married a princess, especially a princess who was known for being strict and unyielding, she felt a surge of resentment. She was convinced that Lingyue had stolen her rightful place as the mistress of the general's mansion. On the second day after her arrival, Murong Yao deliberately wore a bright red dress, a color reserved for the mistress of the mansion, and went to the main hall to greet Ling Yu. At that time, Ling Yue was sitting at a table, checking the mansion's expense records with the housekeeper. The table was covered with account books and scrolls, and a small box containing her phoenix crown was placed on a side table. She had taken it out earlier to have the jade polished. "Cousin sister-in-law, I've come to greet you," Murong Yao said, her voice sweet but her eyes cold. She curtsied perfunctorily, then walked around the hall, running her fingers over the expensive vases and tapestries. "The general's mansion is so grand. I've never seen such beautiful things." Lin Yu did not look up from the account books. "Thank you. If you're tired, you can go back to your courtyard to rest," she said, her tone polite but distant. Murong Yao's lips twisted into a sneer. She walked over to the side table and stared at the phoenix crown. The crown was made of pure gold, inlaid with hundreds of pearls and red jade, and topped with a pair of golden phoenixes with outstretched wings. It was a masterpiece of craftsmanship and a symbol of imperial power. Without asking for permission, Murong Yao reached out and picked up the phoenix crown. She stumbled slightly under its weight, then clumsily placed it on her head. She turned to the bronze mirror in the corner, admiring her reflection. "Do I look like a princess?" she asked the servant standing beside her, her voice coquettish. "Look at this crown. It suits me so well, don't you think?" The servant's face turned white. She fell to her knees, trembling. "Miss Yao, you can't wear the princess's phoenix crown. It's a crime to usurp the royal regalia, punishable by death according to Article 22 of the imperial etiquette law." "Death," Murong Yao laughed, twirling around in front of the mirror. "Don't be silly. It's just a headdress. Cousin sister-in-law won't mind, right?" She turned to Ling Yue, her eyes provocative. "Cousin sister-in-law, do you think I look more beautiful in this crown than you do?" At that moment, Ling Yue closed the account book. She stood up slowly, her face as cold as ice. The room fell silent, and even the air seemed to freeze. "Murong Yao," she said, her voice low and dangerous, "take off the phoenix crown. Now." Murong Yao pouted, pretending to be innocent. "Cousin sister-in-law, don't be so mean. I just wanted to try it on. It's not a big deal." "Not a big deal?" Ling Yu stepped forward, her eyes sharp enough to cut through steel. "The phoenix crown is not just a headdress. It is a royal artifact, exclusive to imperial princesses and empresses. According to Article 22 of the imperial etiquette law, anyone who wears royal regalia without permission is guilty of treason, and the punishment is beheading. Additionally, Article 15 of the Prince's Mansion Regulations stipulates that no one shall touch the princess's personal belongings without authorization. You have violated both imperial law and the mansion's rules." Murong Yao's face turned pale. She had not expected Ling Yu to quote the law so precisely, and she had never thought that trying on a crown could be a crime punishable by death. She quickly took off the phoenix crown, her hands trembling so much that she almost dropped it. I didn't know. "I'm sorry, cousin sister-in-law. I won't do it again." "Ignorance of the law is not an excuse," Ling Yu said coldly. "Housekeeper, call the guards. Take Murong Yao to the firewood room and lock her up. No food or water until General Murong returns." "Yes, princess," the housekeeper said, relief flooding his face. The guards stepped forward and grabbed Murong Yao's arms. "Let go of me. Cousin will not allow you to treat me like this," Murong Yao shouted, struggling frantically. "Cousin loves me. He will punish you for this." Ling Yu ignored her. She turned to the servant who had knelt on the ground. "You did well to remind her of the law. I will reward you with 5 taels of silver. But remember, next time you must stop her immediately, not just kneel and beg." "Thank you, princess," the servant kowtowed repeatedly. In the evening, Murong Che returned to the mansion. As soon as he stepped through the gate, the housekeeper rushed forward to report what had happened. Murong Che's face darkened. He did not go to the main hall to see Ling Yu first. Instead, he went straight to the firewood room. Murong Yao heard his voice and began to cry. "Cousin, you're here! Save me! Cousin's sister-in-law locked me in this dirty place just because I tried on a crown. She's so cruel." Murong Che opened the door of the firewood room. The room was dark and damp, with a pile of firewood in the corner. Murong Yao was huddled on the ground, her dress dirty and her hair disheveled. But instead of feeling sorry for her, Murong Che felt angry. Yao Yao, you have disappointed me, he said, his voice cold. The phoenix crown is the princess's regalia, and wearing it without permission is a serious crime. The princess did not execute you on the spot. She gave you a chance. You should be grateful. Murong Yao looked up at him, shocked. Cousin, you're not going to help me? The princess is my wife, and she is in the right, Murong Che said firmly. I have already agreed to all her rules, including the rule that she has the right to punish anyone who violates the law in the mansion. You knew the rules when you came here, but you chose to ignore them. He paused. I will send you back to your hometown tomorrow. You are no longer welcome in the general's mansion. Murong Yao's face turned ashen. She had never thought that Murong Che would choose Ling Yu over her. She hated Ling Yu more than ever, but she knew she had no choice. She hung her head, tears streaming down her face. After dealing with Murong Yao, Murong Che went to the main hall. Ling Yue was sitting by the window, reading the imperial law again. The candlelight flickered, casting a soft glow on her face. Murong Che felt a surge of affection for her. Princess, he said, walking over to her. I have dealt with Murong Yao. I will send her back to her hometown tomorrow. Ling Yue looked up. You are not angry with me for punishing your cousin? Of course not, Murong Che said, sitting down beside her. You did the right thing. If I indulge her today, she will only make bigger mistakes in the future. And besides, he reached out and took her hand. Her hand was small and cold, and he wrapped his fingers around it gently. I admire your courage to uphold the law, no matter who it is. Ling Yue's heart skipped a beat. She could feel the warmth of his hand, and her face turned slightly red. She pulled her hand back gently, but her eyes were soft. Thank you, General. I was worried that you would think I was too harsh. You are not harsh. You are just, Murong Che said. He picked up the copy of the imperial law she had been reading. What are you reading? The chapter on military law, Ling Yu said. I want to learn more about the laws related to the military so I can better understand your work. Murong Che smiled. He began to explain the military law to her, using examples from his own experience. Ling Yu listened attentively, asking questions from time to time. The candle burned late into the night, and the room was filled with the sound of their voices. For the first time, Ling Yue felt that her marriage was not just a duty, it was a partnership. Chapter 3. The Conspiracy of the Prince's Mansion. Murong Yao was sent back to her hometown the next day, but she did not give up. As soon as she arrived home, she wrote a letter to Li Hao, the son of Prince Li. She knew that Li Hao hated Ling Yu and Murong Che. She had heard about the peony incident from the servants in the general's mansion. She hoped that Li Hao would help her take revenge. Li Hao was indeed still holding a grudge. He had never forgotten the humiliation of being forced to pay 3,000 taels of silver by Ling Yue, and he resented Murong Che for intervening. When he received Murong Yao's letter, he was overjoyed. He immediately invited her to the prince's mansion in secret. Miss Murong, what can I do for you? Li Hao asked, pouring her a cup of tea. He looked at her with greed in his eyes. Murong Yao was very beautiful, and he had always wanted to make her his concubine. I want to take revenge on Ling Yu and Murong Che, Murong Yao said, her voice trembling with anger. That woman humiliated me in front of everyone, and my cousin drove me out of the mansion. I want them to pay for it. Li Hao smiled sinisterly. I have been waiting for an opportunity to get back at them. Princess Ling Yue is the emperor's favorite daughter, and Murong Che is the emperor's most trusted general. We can't attack them directly, but we can use rumors to ruin their reputation. Rumors? Murong Yao asked, confused. Yes, Li Hao said. The people of the capital are easily influenced by rumors. If we spread a rumor that Princess Ling Yue is cruel and tyrannical, and that she and Murong Che are colluding to seize power, the emperor will definitely be suspicious of them. Once the emperor loses trust in them, we can get rid of them easily. Murong Yao's eyes lit up. That's a great plan, but how do we make the rumors believable? I have a friend who runs a tea house in the busy market, Li Hao said. Tea houses are the center of gossip. We can spread the rumors there first. I will also pay some beggars and peddlers to spread the rumors on the streets. And you You can spread some inside information about the general's mansion to make the rumors more credible. I will do it, Murong Yao said eagerly. I know many things about the general's mansion. For example, Ling Yu forces the servants to study the law until late at night, and she punishes them severely for even the smallest mistakes. We can say that she abuses the servants and even killed a maid who broke a teacup. Perfect, Li Hao said, clapping his hands. Let's start tomorrow. I want the entire capital to be talking about Princess Lingyue's cruelty in 3 days. The next day, the rumors began to spread. At first, it was just a few whispers in the tea house. Have you heard? Princess Lingyue is a tyrant. She beat a maid to death just because she spilled tea on her dress. Then the rumors became more exaggerated. Princess Lingyue and General Murong Che are plotting to rebel. They are hoarding weapons in the general's mansion. Murong Che has bribed the generals on the frontier. He plans to lead his troops back to the capital and seize the throne. The rumors spread like wildfire. The people of the capital were divided. Some believed the rumors, saying that princesses from the palace are all cruel, while others defended Lingyue, saying that she was a protector of the common folk. But as more and more people spread the rumors, the doubts in people's hearts grew. Soon, the rumors reached the ears of Emperor Xuanzong. The emperor was furious. He had always trusted Lingyu and Murong Che, but the rumors were so detailed that he could not help but feel suspicious. He immediately summoned them to the imperial study. Lingyue, Murong Che, the emperor said, his face serious. I have heard some terrible rumors about you. They say that you abuse the servants in the general's mansion and that you are colluding to seize power. Is this true? Lingyue knelt down, her back straight. Father, my daughter is wronged, she said firmly. I have never abused any servant. The general's mansion has strict rules, but all punishments are in accordance with the law. As for colluding to seize power, that is completely absurd. General Murong is loyal to the dynasty, and I have no desire for power. These rumors are definitely spread by someone with ulterior motives. Murong Che also knelt down. Your Majesty, the princess is telling the truth, he said. I have dedicated my life to protecting Dejing. I would never betray the dynasty. The rumors must be a plot by our enemies to frame us. Emperor Xuanzong frowned. I want to believe you, he said, but the rumors are everywhere. If you cannot prove your innocence, even I will not be able to protect you. Father, I have evidence, Lingyue said. She took out a stack of documents from her sleeve. These are the records of the general's mansion's servants, their salaries, their duties, and any punishments they have received. You can see that there is no record of any servant being killed or seriously injured. Each punishment is small, like a fine or extra work, and is only given for violating the rules. Additionally, I have sent my confidant, Qing'er, to investigate the source of the rumors. She is very capable. I believe she will bring us good news soon. Emperor Xuanzong took the documents and read them carefully. The records were detailed and accurate, with the signatures of the servants and the housekeeper. He nodded slightly. These records seem genuine. I will give you 3 days to find the person who spread the rumors. If you fail, I will have to investigate you myself. Thank you, Father, Lingyue said. After leaving the palace, Murong Che said to Lingyue, Princess, I will send Qinhu and his men to help Qing'er investigate. We must find the culprit as soon as possible. Thank you, General, Lingyue said. Qing'er is already on the case. She is very good at disguise and investigation. She used to help me uncover corruption cases in the palace. Lingyue was right. Qing'er was a former spy in the palace who had been rescued by Lingyue's mother. She was loyal to Lingyue and had extraordinary investigative skills. That evening, she returned to the general's mansion with important news. Princess General, Qing'er knelt down and said, I have found the source of the rumors. They started in the Happy Tea House in the East Market. The owner of the tea house told me that a man dressed as a scholar paid him to spread the rumors. I followed the man and found that he is a servant of the prince's mansion. I also saw Murong Yao sneaking into the prince's mansion this morning. She was talking to Li Hao in the back garden. Lingyue's eyes turned cold. I knew it was them, she said. Li Hao holds a grudge against us for the peony incident, and Murong Yao hates me for punishing her. They are working together to frame us. Murong Che's face was dark with anger. Li Hao is so bold. He dares to frame the princess and me. He is asking for death. Calm down, General, Ling Yue said. We cannot act rashly. The prince's mansion is powerful. Prince Li is the emperor's brother. We need to gather irrefutable evidence to prove their guilt. Only then can we bring them to justice. What is your plan, princess? Murong Che asked. Tomorrow you and I will go to the prince's mansion together, Ling Yue said. We will pretend to be angry and confront Li Hao. He is arrogant and impulsive. He will definitely admit his crimes in front of us. Qing'er will hide nearby and record his words. Then we will take the evidence to the emperor. With the emperor's order, we can arrest him and Murong Yao. Good plan, Murong Che said. Let's do it. The next morning, Ling Yu and Murong Che arrived at the prince's mansion with a group of guards. Prince Li was surprised to see them. Princess, General Murong, what brings you here? He asked, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. We are here to see Li Hao, Ling Yu said coldly. We have something to ask him. Prince Li's heart sank. He had heard the rumors, and he suspected that his son was involved, but he did not dare to admit it. Hao is not here, he lied. Is that so? Murong Che said, his voice cold. Then why is his voice coming from the back garden? Before Prince Li could respond, Ling Yu and Murong Che pushed past him and walked toward the back garden. As they approached, they heard Li Hao's voice. Yao Yao, you were right. The rumors are working. Everyone in the capital is talking about Ling Yue's cruelty. The emperor must be suspicious of them now. I told you it would work, Murong Yao's voice said, filled with pride. Once Ling Yue loses the emperor's trust, you can ask the emperor to marry me to you. Then, I will be the mistress of the prince's mansion, and I will never have to look at that woman's face again. Don't worry, Li Hao said. Once I get rid of Murong Che, I will be the most powerful man in the capital. I will make you my wife, and we will rule the capital together. Really? That's wonderful, Murong Yao said, laughing. Ling Yue and Murong Che stepped into the back garden. What a beautiful dream, Ling Yue said, her voice cold enough to freeze the air. Li Hao and Murong Yao turned around, their faces turning pale with shock. You are here? Li Hao stammered. We have heard everything, Murong Che said, signaling to his guards. The guards stepped forward and grabbed Li Hao and Murong Yao, tying their hands behind their backs. Let go of me. My father is a prince. You can't arrest me, Li Hao shouted, struggling. Prince or not, you have violated the law, Ling Yue said. You spread rumors to frame the imperial princess and the general. This is a crime of treason. According to Article 3 of the Imperial Treason Law, the punishment is beheading. Do you think your father can save you? Prince Li rushed into the garden, his face ashen. Princess, General Murong, please spare my son, he begged, falling to his knees. He is young and foolish. He was misled by Murong Yao. I will punish him severely. Please don't take him to the emperor. Prince Li, you should have disciplined your son better, Murong Che said coldly. He has committed a heinous crime. We cannot let him off lightly. Ling Yue nodded. We will take them to the emperor. The emperor will decide their fate. They dragged Li Hao and Murong Yao to the imperial palace. In the imperial study, Li Hao and Murong Yao had no choice but to admit their crimes. Emperor Xuanzong was furious. He ordered Li Hao to be flogged 50 times and exiled to the remote western frontier. Murong Yao was sentenced to life imprisonment in a nunnery. Prince Li was punished for failing to discipline his son. His fief was reduced by half, and he was forbidden to enter the palace for a year. After this incident, no one dared to provoke Ling Yu and Murong Che again. The people of the capital admired Ling Yue even more for her wisdom and courage, and they praised Murong Che for his loyalty. The emperor's trust in them deepened, and he even asked Ling Yue to help revise the imperial law to make it more fair and just. That night, as Ling Yu and Murong Che sat together in the main hall, Murong Che took her hand and said softly, "Princess, you are amazing. I am so proud of you." Ling Yu smiled, leaning her head on his shoulder. "We did it together," she said. For the first time, she did not feel like a lonely guardian of the law. She felt like she had a partner, someone who would stand by her side no matter what. Chapter 4: The General's Romance. After the rumor incident, the general's mansion returned to peace. But something had changed between Ling Yu and Murong Che. Their relationship was no longer just a partnership based on respect. There was now a deep affection between them. Morongche was more gentle and attentive than ever. He would bring her small gifts from his trips outside the city, a bunch of wild flowers, a rare book, a delicate hairpin. He would accompany her to walk in the garden at dusk, and he would sit with her by the window at night, listening to her read the law. One day, Morongche returned from the military camp with a bunch of bright yellow chrysanthemums. He handed them to Ling Yue, his face slightly red. "Princess, I saw these chrysanthemums on the hillside outside the city. They reminded me of you, bright, strong, and beautiful." Ling Yue took the flowers, her heart fluttering. She smelled them, the fresh fragrance filling her nose. "Thank you, General," she said, her voice soft. "They are beautiful." Morongche looked at her, his eyes filled with tenderness. "Princess, I have something to tell you," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "Since the day I met you in the imperial garden, I have admired you. At first, it was admiration for your commitment to justice. But as time went by, I found myself falling in love with you. I love your stubbornness, your courage, your kindness. I love everything about you." Ling Yue's face turned bright red. She lowered her head, her heart pounding. She had never expected Morongche to confess his love to her so directly. For a moment, she did not know what to say. "Princess, I know I am a soldier, and I may not be good at expressing my feelings," Morongche said, taking her hand. "But I promise you, I will love you, protect you, and respect you for the rest of my life. Will you accept my love?" Ling Yue raised her head, her eyes shining with tears. She nodded. "Yes, General," she said. I love you too." Morongche's face lit up. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly. Ling Yue leaned against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat. She felt safe and loved, something she had never felt before. That night, Morongche stayed in the main courtyard. They did not do anything intimate. They just sat together, talking about their childhood, their dreams, their fears. Ling Yue told him about the maid who had been wrongfully executed and about her mother's death when she was 10. Morongche told her about his father, who had died in battle when he was young, and about his promise to protect the dynasty. "I used to think that I would never find someone who understood me," Ling Yue said, her head on his shoulder. "But now, I have you. I will always be here for you," Morongche said, kissing her forehead. A few days later, it was the Mid-Autumn Festival. The capital was decorated with lanterns, and the streets were filled with people. Morongche suggested that they go out to watch the lanterns and eat mooncakes. Ling Yue agreed eagerly. She had always wanted to experience the Mid-Autumn Festival with ordinary people. Morongche dressed in plain clothes, and Ling Yue wore a simple blue dress. They blended in with the crowd, holding hands as they walked along the street. The air was filled with the smell of mooncakes and osmanthus wine. Ling Yue looked around, her eyes wide with curiosity. She had never seen such a lively scene. Children running around with lanterns, couples walking arm in arm, vendors shouting loudly. "Look, General, that lantern is shaped like a rabbit," Ling Yue said, pointing to a white rabbit lantern hanging outside a shop. Morongche smiled. He walked into the shop and bought the rabbit lantern. He handed it to her. "Here for you," he said. Ling Yue took the lantern, her face glowing with happiness. She held it in one hand and Morongche's hand in the other, walking forward. As they passed a sugar painting stall, Ling Yue stopped. She had heard of sugar paintings but had never tasted them. "What is that?" she asked. "It's sugar painting," Morongche said. "You choose a pattern, and the stall owner makes it with melted sugar. It's sweet and crispy." He turned to the stall owner. "Boss, make a sugar painting of a phoenix." The stall owner nodded. He heated the sugar in a small pot, then used a spoon to pour the melted sugar onto a marble slab, drawing a beautiful phoenix with quick, skilled movements. In a few minutes, the sugar painting was done. He stuck it on a bamboo stick and handed it to Ling Yue. Ling Yue took a small bite. The sugar was sweet, and it melted in her mouth. "It's delicious," she said, her eyes lighting up. Morongche watched her, his heart filled with happiness. He loved seeing her like this, happy, carefree, not the serious living code, but just a young woman enjoying life. As they walked on, a group of children ran past them, laughing and shouting. One of the children accidentally bumped into Ling Yue, and she stumbled backward. Che quickly wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her close. Their faces were only inches apart. Lingyu could feel his warm breath on her lips, and she could see the love in his eyes. "Are you okay?" Che asked, his voice soft. Lingyue shook her head, her face red. "I'm fine," she whispered. Che did not let go of her. He leaned down and kissed her gently. The kiss was soft and sweet, like the sugar painting in her hand. Lingyu closed her eyes, savoring the moment. The crowd around them faded away, and there was only the two of them and the bright moonlight above. When they returned to the general's mansion, Che carried Lingyue into the main courtyard. He lit a candle and placed it on the table. "Princess," he said, looking into her eyes, "I want to marry you again. This time, not because of the emperor's decree, but because I love you. I want to spend the rest of my life with you." Lingyue smiled, tears of happiness streaming down her face. "Yes," she said, "I want that too." That night, they made love for the first time. It was gentle and tender, filled with love and passion. Lingyue knew that from that moment on, she was no longer alone. She had found her soulmate, her partner, her love. Chapter 5. The Rebellion of the Western Regions. Happy days always pass quickly. 6 months after their second wedding, the peace of Dejing was broken by a rebellion in the Western regions. The leader of the rebellion was Kumo, a former tribal chief who had been defeated by Che a year earlier. Kumo had regrouped his forces and allied with several other tribes, leading 100,000 troops to attack the western border. The border garrisons were caught off guard, and they suffered heavy losses. Urgent reports were sent to the capital every day, begging for reinforcements. Emperor Xuanzong was deeply worried. He summoned all the ministers to the court to discuss the matter. In the court hall, the ministers argued fiercely. Some suggested negotiating with Kumo, saying that the dynasty could not afford a long war. Others suggested sending troops to suppress the rebellion, but no one dared to volunteer to lead the army. Kumo was known for his cruelty and military skill, and the western border was a harsh, desolate place. "Your Majesty, I will lead the army to suppress the rebellion." Che stepped forward, his voice firm. "Kumo is a traitor and a murderer. He has killed thousands of our soldiers and civilians. We cannot negotiate with him. We must defeat him and restore peace to the western border." Emperor Xuanzong nodded, relief flooding his face. "General Murong, I knew I could count on you. I will give you 50,000 troops and full authority to command the western border garrisons. You must win this battle." "Yes, Your Majesty. I will not disappoint you," Che said. After the court session, Che returned to the general's mansion. He told Lingyu about the emperor's order. Lingyue's face was serious, but she did not cry or beg him to stay. She knew that protecting the dynasty was Che's duty, and she would support him. "General, you must be careful," she said, taking his hand. "The western border is dangerous, and Kumo is a fierce enemy. I will pray for your safety every day." "I will, Princess," Che said, hugging her tightly. "I will come back to you, I promise." He paused. "While I'm away, you must take care of yourself. Don't work too hard, and don't confront those nobles alone. If you have any trouble, send someone to the palace to ask the emperor for help." "I will," Lingyue said, "and I will take care of the general's mansion. I will also help the emperor revise the imperial law so that when you come back, the dynasty will be more fair and stable, and the people will live in greater peace. This is the wish we both hold, isn't it?" Che kissed her forehead gently, his eyes filled with determination and affection. The next day, he led 50,000 troops out of the capital. The streets were lined with people who threw flowers and cheered for their hero. Lingyu stood on the city wall, watching his figure disappear into the distance, holding the chrysanthemums he had given her tightly in her hand. While Che was away, Lingyue kept her promise. She threw herself into revising the imperial law, focusing on improving the clauses related to the protection of civilians and the punishment of corrupt officials. She held discussions with ministers every day, listening to their opinions, but never compromising on the principle of justice. When some nobles tried to obstruct the revision, claiming that the new laws would harm their interests, Lingyue confronted them directly, citing the old laws and the sufferings of the people, and even presented the evidence of their past violations to the emperor. With the emperor's full support, the obstructionists were severely reprimanded, and the revision of the imperial law proceeded smoothly. Meanwhile, on the western frontier, Murongche was leading his troops through a bitter struggle. The western regions were dry and barren, with scarce water and forage, and Kumo's army was familiar with the local terrain, launching sneak attacks on Murongche's troops from time to time. Once, Murongche's army was ambushed in a narrow valley, and they were trapped for 3 days without food or water. But Murongche remained calm. He ordered his troops to conserve their strength during the day and sent out small groups of scouts to find a way out at night. On the 4th day, he seized the opportunity of a sandstorm to lead his troops out of the valley and launched a surprise counterattack on Kumo's camp, inflicting heavy losses on the enemy. During the campaign, Murongche never forgot to write to Lingyu. He told her about the beautiful sunsets on the frontier, the loyalty of his soldiers, and his longing for her. He also asked about the progress of the imperial law revision, encouraging her to persist in her ideals. Lingyu replied to every letter, telling him about the changes in the capital, the support of the people for the new law, and her daily prayers for his safety. She also sent him a sachet she had made herself, filled with wormwood to repel mosquitoes and ward off evil, hoping it would protect him on the battlefield. As time went by, half a year passed. Lingyu finally completed the revision of the imperial law. The new law was more comprehensive and fair. It increased the punishment for corrupt officials, improved the protection of women and children, and formulated more detailed regulations for the management of border areas. When the new law was promulgated, the people of the capital cheered, and even many honest ministers praised it as a law that benefits the people for 100 years. At the same time, Murongche's army had achieved a decisive victory. He had defeated Kumo's main force in a great battle, captured Kumo alive, and pacified all the rebellious tribes. The western border was once again stable. The emperor was overjoyed when he received the good news. He ordered Murongche to lead his troops back to the capital and prepare to hold a grand celebration for his triumph. On the day Murongche returned to the capital, the streets were crowded with people. Everyone held flowers and silk banners, cheering for the hero who had safeguarded the dynasty. Lingyu stood at the city gate, wearing a light blue palace dress, holding the chrysanthemums Murongche had given her before he left. She had been carefully nurturing them, and they were still in full bloom. When she saw Murongche riding a tall horse at the front of the army, his armor was slightly worn, but his eyes were still bright and firm, her eyes filled with tears of joy. Murongche dismounted as soon as he saw Lingyu. He strode toward her, ignoring the greetings of the ministers around him. He took her hand tightly, his voice trembling with excitement. "Lingyu, I'm back. I kept my promise." "Welcome back, General," Lingyu said softly, tears sliding down her cheeks. "You've worked hard." The emperor held a grand banquet for Murongche that night, rewarding him with countless gold, silver, and treasures, and even wanting to confer a higher title on him. But Murongche declined. He knelt down and said, "Your Majesty, I fight not for titles or wealth, but for the peace of the dynasty and the happiness of the people. Now that the border is stable and the new law is promulgated, my wish has been fulfilled. I only hope to stay by the prince's side and guard this peaceful land together with her." The emperor laughed and agreed. He also praised Lingyu for her contributions to revising the imperial law, saying that she was the cornerstone of the dynasty's stability. After that, Murongche continued to serve as the general of the capital's garrison, and Lingyu assisted the emperor in supervising the implementation of the new law. Under their joint efforts, the Dejing dynasty became more prosperous and stable. Corruption was reduced. The people lived and worked in peace and contentment, and the borders were secure. Every evening, they would walk in the garden of the general's mansion, the chrysanthemums in the garden blooming brightly, just like their unchanging love. "Do you still remember the first time we met in the imperial garden?" Murongche asked, holding Lingyu in his arms, the fragrance of chrysanthemums lingering around them. "Of course," Lingyu smiled, leaning her head on his chest. You helped me force Li Hao to compensate for the peonies. At that time, I thought you were just a strict general who knew the law well. And I thought you were a stubborn but admirable princess. Morongche kissed her hair gently. Your eyes were as sharp as a blade when you argued with Li Hao, but they were also full of justice. At that moment, I knew you were the one I wanted to spend my life with. Lingju laughed softly. The moonlight poured down, covering them with a layer of silver light. The wind blew, carrying the laughter of the people in the distance. They were living in the peaceful and fair dynasty that Lingyu and Morongche had guarded together. For the law-abiding princess and her devoted general, this was the most perfect happiness.